I'm an engineer. I'm not an educator. So anything I say about education is just my hypothesis at this point. Right? So what should AI do? It was kind of like, what can AI do? And to me, that was less interesting a question than what should AI do for learning, right? And again, not being in education, I kind of just looked at it from my perspective as an engineer who likes to solve problems and build systems for that. And for me, it was AI should help us fall in love with learning. It's not about gaming the system. It's not about summative scores. Can we not just fall in love with learning? Right? Can we just not change the conversation from who gets what grade, who gets what badge, who goes where, and all of this stuff, right? So just imagine a scenario, and I have kind of painted some scenarios here. I'm going to describe a few more. A girl is walking to school, and it's foggy that day. Why can't her cell phone, which is a learning companion, prompt her about what causes fog, right? She's driving after school to her piano class with her mom. Mom pulls up at a gas station, supposed to see 87, 89, 91. What is 87, 89, 91? Why didn't they number it 1, 2, 3? Right? So learning moments surround us, and seizing these moments will ignite their passion to learn. So that was kind of the frame in which we started developing this. Of course, what I'll talk to you has complete relevance and application in the K-12 context, and that's kind of where we are focused on. But the obsession here is, can we just not fall in love with learning? It's learning moments are there all the time. You pull up at a Starbucks. How do you decaffeinate coffee? Why are there? How did they compute 170 calories in a pack of fries? Right? At every moment around you, there is a learning opportunity. And if your learning companion can constantly prompt you with that, you will fall in love with learning. Yeah. So here's a question for Laura. In this case, we have called her Laura. When you pull up at a gas station, depending upon who you are, right? Either we can talk to you about octane rating, or we can talk to you about geopolitics of oil, or the impact of low-grade gasoline on the environment, right? The system has to know everything about you. And it's at that point the system can intelligently decide. Now, strangely, as Paulo mentioned, Netflix knows a lot about you. Amazon knows a lot about you. Now, if we have a system, it doesn't have to know everything, but it has to know quite a bit, right? So Amazon doesn't know what you shopped at Macy's. Netflix doesn't know what movie you caught in the local theater and so forth, but that's okay. But if it has adequate information about you, it can kind of support your learning. So, yeah, having worked on Google Maps, I kind of, just imagine, I had to quit my job at Google, come home and tell my wife I'm starting a nonprofit. So to kind of prepare myself for that conversation, I went and visited 1,000 schools around the world, from Africa, China, India, US, Europe, everywhere, right? And what was so consistent across every school in every part of the world, whichever grade, whichever language they taught in, was the classroom focused on the destination. So they told you, if you sit in my algebra class, I'm going to teach you algebra. Doesn't matter whether you know what a polynomial is, whether you know what ratios and what fractions are, right? If you sit in my trigonometry class, I'm going to teach you trigonometry, whether or not you know what an acute angle is, right? So the entire education system, again, as a non-educator, my observation is, it's focused on the destination. So imagine if Google Maps worked that way for you, right? If you need to go to San Francisco, I can't tell you how to get onto the freeway, but I can tell you all about the SFO airport, because that's your destination, right? And we have a curriculum for that, we have standards for that, we have assessments for that, and so forth. And oh, by the way, if you happen to take the community college train, only 22% of you will get there, right? And when you get there, you may get there with a C grade or some such thing, right? So the whole idea was we need a navigator. for learning. So that's why we think of it as the GPS for learning. We need to organize, and I'm not going to belabor this, go into more details here, but basically how do we organize? If you think about Google Maps, the way it works is every point on Earth has a latitude and longitude, right? So everything has a lat long. The Starbucks has a street address and all of that stuff, but that's irrelevant. What matters is the Starbucks has a lat long. So street address, hours of operation, photos are all for humans. What the machine needs to navigate you to that Starbucks is a lat long. What you have is a lat long when you pull up your phone right now. And as you will see that your Google Maps will not even start up if it can't locate you. It will say GPS signal not found, right? But in education, we don't have a problem with that, right? We can't locate the student, but we are going to teach you to the destination, right? So now how do you kind of get to a competency model, organize millions and millions of learning activities? Since you don't want a Google Maps that only has 5,000 videos, right? You want a Google Maps or handful of Starbucks or Pete's Coffee. You want a Google Maps that has everything that you can possibly navigate to, right? Then all the learners have to be organized. Since that's how you know accidents, you know traffic, you know where you are. You know if you use Waze, then you also know where the rest of your commuters are and so forth. And finally, there's a pathway. So there's a quick snippet about how this experience would be. And so the student kind of decides what they want to learn. The system, you can believe me for now, somehow knows where the student is. So that's the first one, and provides you a learning pathway. Fills in all the gaps. You may want to learn about extinction and endangered species and all of that stuff, but what are the gaps that you have? Then you can kind of navigate to the resources, and finally, it updates your location based on how you performed while you were navigating. So we can go more about it. So basically, we kind of say that to navigate a learner, you have to locate them first. You have to locate the learner, you have to curate all the learning activities that are there, and then you have to mediate. Mediate is what's the sequence in which you are going to go about the whole thing. So kind of there's this, what can AI do? What should AI do? Somehow there's this belief that we are one algorithm away from disruption in education. And I kind of want to point out that at least our observation is it's an incredibly complex space. There are many, many players with very diverse interests. So education every year has millions of the smartest people, billions of innovation, and trillions of programs spent. And if we are not able to move the needle with that, then thinking that there's going to be this one magical algorithm is kind of being overly optimistic about the algorithm, right? So we kind of look at it as we need collective impact. All the educators, all the researchers, all the content providers, all the software developers have to work together, have to open source their work so that we can have collective impact. So what is lacking in education is not that we don't have smart people and a lot of money. It's that we are not pulling in the same direction. So collective impact will achieve that, number one. Number two, we need to obsess on outcomes. It's not about, this is the only product that I know or that I have ever been part of or have built, where in every other product that I built, if the product didn't work, the engineer said, hey, let's go fix it. Let's figure out what happened. Let's go fix it. Here, if the product doesn't work, we say the teacher is stupid or the student is stupid, right? So we conveniently blame the user and absolve ourselves from the product or the people who are responsible to create a product that works. So can we kind of actually put research level rigor into establishing outcomes? And finally, I kind of want to point out that it's about implementing at scale. Since we can always build a prototype and implement it in one school, one district, one whatever, right? And we can show some data and all of that is fine, good, except that if you want 1.8 billion students in the world, 55 million students in America to want to study, use your product. Again, I come from this view of Google Maps for learning. right? If you want everybody to want to use it, then we should have a model for how do we implement at scale. So I'll kind of wrap up with actually this one or the next one, which is, so as we are a non-profit organization called Gooru. We kind of have looked at it as, hey, we need to interweave the science, practice, outcome, and scale, right? We have to bring scientists who know the space, the learning scientists, cognitive scientists, data scientists who know the space. We need to build production-grade products, right? It's not about that as being used in schools and informed by teachers and informed by educators, and show that it produces strong outcomes, and show that this actually moves the needle. And finally, kind of partner with companies who have their systems in schools to put this in there. So that's kind of the approach that we think it's a full ecosystem view that we need to pay attention to and work on all elements of this so that we can build a strong solution. So just to kind of wrap it up, I want to point out that we are a non-profit organization. Gooru is free, and we kind of would love to find people who want to collaborate in developing the Google Maps for learning. Thank you very much.